Welcome to By Your Side, Divorce Law and Support.
Hello, and welcome back to By Your Side, Divorce Law and Support with Patricia Sokolich. Pat is a longtime family law attorney and now a divorce coach who helps women move through separation with clarity and confidence without the pressure of hiring a lawyer. I'm Lisa Mosbey, and today we're talking about what happens once the divorce process has started, how to manage the ups and downs, how to protect yourself, and to stay grounded while things feel overwhelming. Welcome, Pat. Thank you so much for joining me again.
Thank you for having me, Lisa. It's a pleasure to be back.
Pat, once the paperwork is filed, what are the biggest challenges that women should be prepared for right away?
Well, one of the major issues that are presented, and that this totally depends on the spouse, the husband, is how they react to getting the papers served on them. The papers have to be personally served in a divorce matter. And usually, unless the husband knows ahead of time that the divorce is pending and that he's going to be served, there's usually outrage that they've been served. So one of the things I tell clients is, if it at all possible, let them know that you've contacted a lawyer, you're moving forward with the divorce, and that he will have to be served personally by a process server. There's nothing, it's normal, and that's the way it has to be done. So they shouldn't take offense at it. They shouldn't think that you're being mean. That's just the way it is. The other thing that's important for women to understand is that by having a divorce coach, there's many things that can be discussed prior to the divorce being filed. In other words, I also counsel women on what to look for in a lawyer, how to understand whether or not you're going to be able to establish a rapport with the attorney. I've had clients come to me and they've had one or two lawyers prior to being referred to me. And one of the things they say is that I couldn't talk to the lawyer. I didn't, they wouldn't answer the phone, or they don't answer my questions, or I don't understand. One woman said the lawyer made me cry all the time. So, there's different types of lawyers. Some of them are more responsive to women. Some of them are more able to attach to the woman emotionally and be able to listen to stuff that it may not be that pertinent to the divorce, but it's important that the woman is able to establish a relationship and a contact with the attorney so she knows that she's being heard. She understands that the attorney wants to work with her, and she understands that the attorney is hearing what she says and not just going along on her merry way and ignoring everything the client is saying. Uh, there's many, many different types of attorneys. Many of them are successful. That doesn't mean that they have the emotional ability to deal with women that are in a very stressful, upsetting time of their life. One thing I found is that most women who file for divorce, they're not even sure that they want to do it. It takes a lot of time for them to get to a point where they feel, I have to do this, I have to file. So they need an attorney that's going to be supportive, is going to hear what they have to say, and is going to guide them kindly through the process. As I said, this means that they've found a lawyer that they can work with, and that's something I can help with. I could give them the signs of how a lawyer is going to respond to them and let them know that not every lawyer is going to be able to work with you, and you need to be aware of that.
And Pat, one of the things that comes up early is something called temporary court orders. How do they affect things like housing, custody, or finances during this process? And what should women know about it?
What women need to understand is that when a divorce is filed, again, as I said, the husband, the defendant, Many of them act out. Many of them become very enraged. What they do is they'll cut off financial help. They will, what I call start making trouble. Okay. So what happens is uh, the court has something called a pendente lite motion. And what it does is it allows the parties to file a motion and ask for relief in certain areas. So, one of the things women ask for, or their lawyer asks for, is for the husband to continue paying the bills as he was doing prior to the divorce, that the husband will continue taking care of her car, that the husband will continue allowing her access to bank accounts. So it's a guarantee that everything will remain status quo during the divorce. The housing issue, the husband can't say to you, "Oh, but you want a divorce? Or get out, it's my house." Okay? This motion is a set of orders the court's going to issue, and it's going to let everybody know that things need to remain the same. You're still going to be able to have access to money. He can't cut off your car insurance. Everything has to remain status quo pending the divorce. As far as having a husband that may be abusive, then there's another option. A woman can ask him, her attorney can file for an order of protection. And if things are really egregious or dangerous, then you can file for what we call a stay away order or an exclusion order, which would get the court to have the husband move out of the house pending the divorce. But there's a high threshold for that. But mostly the pendente lite, the motion practice in the beginning, will set the standard, keep everything the same. So it guarantees that there's not going to be financial issues or housing issues during the divorce.
And another area of great concern is, staying healthy. Divorce can be a long process to go through, usually is. What are some of the health routines or habits that women uh, cope with while waiting for the case to move forward? And how do you coach them through staying healthy during
Mhm.
that time?
Well, one of the major ways is to have them continue a healthy lifestyle, if that's something that they've already had in place. Now, some women, haven't. They're overwhelmed with family and kids and the house and whatever. But it's a time for them to start stepping back and saying, my health's important. My mental health's important. If that means getting a therapist to give them whatever support they need during the divorce to empower them and allow them to know that they're okay, then that's what they should be doing. If it's a matter of getting rest and getting their meals, uh, again, that's something that they have to take care of. They have to understand and prioritize their own well being because their well being is going to take care of the children. It's going to show, um, it's going to allow the children to realize that things are okay, that nothing terrible is happening, that their lives are going to remain uh, status quo. And the woman, the wife, the client has to really be in her own positive place in order to convey that to the children. So it's very important, whether it's yoga, whether it's exercise, walking. I tell people if you never exercise, find a friend and just go out for an hour, half hour, and just go for a walk. It gets you away mentally and physically from all of the stuff that's going on. Other things, take a yoga class. They need to find things that are going to be helpful to them getting through this in a healthy way.
So, Pat, we just talked about health and healthy habits, but health is more than just physical. It's also that mental, emotional piece of it. So, how can women manage the stress around money when expenses and support haven't been finalized yet? Do you walk them through budgeting and how to stay calm in managing the money and the thoughts around that?
Well, one of the things I do, and this usually happens in the first or second coaching issue, is just ask them what their financial arrangements are, how money is handled in the house. It's also important to know whether or not the woman is employed. If she is employed, uh, it's important that she takes some of her funds and puts them away on the side for a rainy day. By a rainy day, I mean if he decides all of a sudden he cuts off your debit card to the joint account, that's frightening. It's absolutely frightening and terrorizing. But if the woman's employed and she has some income on her own, then there's a way to get through these things. Uh, Again, there are court orders that are going to say he has to maintain the status quo. He doing everything he did before with the money, but it doesn't always work that way. And women need to be prepared ahead of time, whether it's sticking some money in a separate account so that they have some security getting through the divorce, or whether it's just knowing ahead of time to be aware this could happen. And, the court takes a long time. When someone's not supporting the house, paying the mortgage, the options are for the attorney going back to court with another motion, whether it be for contempt or whatever. But these are costly, and they're also very time consuming. Nothing happens in court quickly. Nothing happens in court quickly. So if you're desperate for money, they can file a motion, but you know that it's going to take 2, 3, 4 weeks before you actually get any relief. So having some sense of how would you survive if money is cut off is very important.
Yeah, you don't want your kids to be without groceries for any period of time, so having that fund available. What can mothers do to help their children feel secure when schedules and routines are changing during the initial divorce activities before things have actually been finalized and set in stone?
Well, it also depends a lot on the age of the children that you're dealing with. It's very important to give them information that's age appropriate so that they're not overwhelmed, so that they understand where their position is. The courts also have what we call attorneys appointed just to represent the children's interests. And this happens not in every case. But if we're talking about children who are being manipulated or controlled by a parent who's telling them constantly, well, you want to live with me, not your mother, and they're talking poorly about the mother, okay? They're trying to sway the child. And unfortunately, one of the reasons for this is that if the father does have custody, he doesn't have to pay child support. So many, many men, fathers, will use that as sort of a weapon and say, "Oh, I'm going to go for custody," and that's usually a, a death knell for mothers to hear because they just want soon they'll have custody. So it's a controlling issue that's presented. And also, then the question is, what's happening to the children? Because if you have someone who's manipulating your children, someone who's talking poorly about you, and blaming you for everything, the children become very confused. Now, as I mentioned before, this is where an attorney to represent the children, you can request it, and they will be appointed by the court. That person is just there to listen to the children, to make sure that they're safe, that they're healthy, and they're getting everything they need. They'll also become aware just from talking to the children if this alienation is going on, if the manipulation is happening. Um, I was on the panel representing children for many years, so I have a lot of experience with this. And you just understand where the child's position is, what sort of negative things they're working through. And so it's not every case, but in many cases, it's important that you ask for an attorney to represent your children. It's very important that sometimes you need an attorney representing just the children's interest, so that the mother's not trying to talk to the children herself, but there's someone listening, and they'll talk to the children occasionally and say, "How's it going? What is happening at home? What's daddy doing? What's mommy doing? What do you do on weekends when your daddy with you?" And so a lot of knowledge is gained that way. And one of the things that it helps with the children is to understand that they have a voice in this divorce. They can get their feelings and they can say what they want or what's important to them. They can also tell this person, because everything that's told to the attorney for the child is confidential. So the children can, and the older ones understand that tell that person what's wrong or what's going on or what you need or what you want. And that person's there to help the children. As far as what the mother can do, you can certainly keep establishing for the children that their routines remain the same, that they are not the cause of the divorce, that they will be okay, that mommy and daddy still love you, and the divorce has nothing to do with anything you did. It's not your fault. And yeah, those are the most important things you can convey to your children. There's a lot of literature out there, a lot of books for children of divorce. Um, you have to be very selective on what you present to your children. That's my personal feeling. You have to really look through the literature, not just dump it on the kids. But yes, there is some professional help there for the kids.
Here's where I want to wrap this up today, Pat, is what encouragement do you want women to hear about getting through the middle of the divorce, even when it feels like there's no end in sight? Because as we've said a number of times, these tend to drag out and they can take a long time and we get worn down. Some final words of encouragement for the women listening today.
Well, one of the things that I would say to them, and I would say this at the outset when we first meet them, that divorce is not a short process. It's a long, drawn out process. And women who come in, I'm very clear, you don't get divorced in 6 months. Divorces go on for at least 2 years, sometimes 3, before everything is taken care of. And that's assuming that we don't go to trial. If there's matters that you're forced to go to trial with, then it can take longer, because then you're depending on the judge's schedule, when they're available, when all the attorneys are available, and the time slots they're limited. So if you're talking about a custody case and you're talking about going to trial on it, there's an enormous amount of money that's at stake, and it's going to take a while. Now, as far as telling them or encouraging them, what I say to them is, this is a long process. This is not something that's going to be taken care of quickly. You're not going to get the results that you think you're going to get immediately. And when they come in, one of the first things I do is sit them down and I ask them, what do you want to wind up with? Where do you want to be or see yourself when this is all over? In other words, what are your goals? You're getting out of this marriage for certain reasons, but what is it that you want to end up with? Is the house the most important thing? Is custody of your children the most important thing? Is it financial issues? Are you not working and it's very important that you get financial support. So I always like to clarify up front when I start out, what are the things that you want to walk away with? And that gives me a clear picture and a way to direct them to hopefully wind up with where they want to be and what they need to get out of this divorce.
And that's where we'll leave it today. Thank you, Pat. Thank you for your for the conversation and for your guidance through this.
You're very welcome. Looking forward to seeing you again.
And folks, thank you for listening to By Your Side, Divorce Law and Support with Patricia Sokolich. If you're in the middle of a divorce and feel overwhelmed by the process, Patricia offers private coaching to help you stay organized, manage stress, and protect your peace. To learn more or schedule a session, call 917-478-7505 or visit SokolichFamilyLaw.com. And if today's episode gave you clarity, please leave a review, and subscribe to the show. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.